I welcome the president of TTUTA inside the spotlight this morning, Mr. Martin Lum Kin. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, sir, and welcome. Thank you for having
welcome
us.
to me, and welcome to you, and welcome to all of you. How are you doing this morning?
Well, I'm blessed at this point in time. I mean, under circumstances, I am here.
I mean, I want to ask just very broadly, what going on?
Well, what we saw, the incident last week, Friday, is just a snippet as to what takes place in schools. Now, it's unfortunate that particular video is being highlighted. I mean, it has always had violence and indiscipline in school, altercations as such. But now that we have social media and we have devices in school, you will see it more and more. But it has been happening. But the level to which we are seeing at this time is unprecedented. It's getting worse.
That's what I was going to ask, because you're saying it has been happening, but I don't recall in my time seeing any student being willing to fight back against teachers and getting in that level of altercation. Now, I'm not saying it hasn't happened across the board at all, but to be able to get into that level of altercation, just student and adult, in the first instance, that seems unprecedented to me. Like we escalating and we're getting worse.
Yes, it's been escalating over the years, and TTUTA has been taking note of what has been taking place in the schools, and we have been calling on the authorities to intervene. Now, it's not only the Ministry of Education, it's not only the government, but there are a number of NGOs, faith-based organizations, who are attempting to intervene at this time. However, we're not seeing the type of deep intervention that is necessary to address this.
What type of intervention is necessary?
At the level of the home. We have to start there.
Okay.
And the statistics show that there are a number of violence within the home as well, too.
Right.
Especially during COVID period, where we were locked down, and the interpersonal relationships in the home were affected. You got more and more reports of home-based violence, and we never seem to want to address it properly. Yes, we can say, it's happening in the home, and we keep running around saying that. But if there's not that intervention from the older persons in the community, as the old African saying goes, it takes a village to raise a child. We seem to be losing that. You know, that whole aspect of what is the essence of Trinidad and Tobago, what it used to be. And that comes with, because of development in the country. We understand, that everybody wants to get a piece of the pie. But sometimes we seem to lose that respect for each other, that love for each other, and that caring. Look after, who's my brother's keeper, as a good book says. We seem to be losing that, and that is spilling more and more into the schools, because the school is a reflection of the community. It's a microcosm of the community.
Society that we live in.
That's it.
So it's very interesting you say that, because I started with this song, Ella Handel's Missing Generation, right? Years and years ago, definitely a generation ago, she would have sang that song. And she said there was a missing generation at that point in time. And if we don't find them, they're going to find us one day. And I feel like that day has arrived. Because like you mentioned, we live in a society now where we talk about the adults in the home, but some of them are also lost. Some of them also are products of that same society, and they live in that society and they perpetuate that society. But tell me now, in this modern society, this technologically advanced society, this post-COVID era, what is the role of the teacher? Because I know, it's a song bad when I say it, right? But the teachers are like your second parents.
Yes.
Because you spend most of the day with them.
Yes.
Is that still the case, or are teachers just there to get the salary, to work and go home?
Okay, so as you speak about that, there are those, unfortunately, within the system, within the profession, that see their role as such, drawing a salary every month end.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I will be the first to admit. But there are very good teachers who are working beyond the call of duty. Now, the home is supposed to be the primary educator for the students. We are seeing, and the school is secondary. Now we're seeing the teachers taking on the role of primary educator because of they have to bridge that gap that was not done in the home. And even at the ECCC level, early childhood care, that system has a major role. Some of our children are not coming through that system as well. They don't have the opportunity. And I can talk the whole day of how that system is not working efficiently. However, there are teachers who have to now bridge that gap more in terms of socialization, emotional intelligence, problem solving, conflict resolution, all of these things, and still teach the curriculum, which is so heavy. And we still, at the primary level, looking at this summative examination, which is SEA, and we are judging schools and judging performance of teachers by this particular examination, whereby we should be looking at other areas. Now, in some schools and in some districts, the supervisors do look at an overall aspect of schools, but generally we are not getting it from the Ministry of Education per se. They may tell you in one end, you need to, and now they have cultural transformation, which they look at other aspects. However, if it is not tested, then it is not focused on efficiently or sufficiently, I should say. Okay. Now, years ago, they tried to do the PCR, which is the testing from the other levels, and then it goes towards your final mark.
Right.
However, we felt it wasn't implemented in the best way possible. It is a good idea when you have formative assessments that you have, just like SBAs sort of, but so the marks accumulate, and then
is that what you do with CAPE now?
CAPE and CSEC,
right?
They have SBAs,
right?
But at the primary level, they wanted to look at that as well,
okay,
right? Which is an ideal way to look at it.
So it's assessment throughout the years rather than one big test at the end.
Yes. Okay. But now the focus is still on that big test,
right?
And that high stake examination, because a lot of people base their future on this. But we don't take into account educational philosophy as well. That not all children learn at the same rate, at the same time. And when you know placing these children based on this examination, sometimes it's demoralizing on their part. Some children don't do well in examinations itself. They do well during the term.
Yeah.
And then when it comes to examination, there's that psychological blockage.
Anxiety and everything else that creeps in.
But
I wanna get back to the role of the teachers, right? Because you mentioned a couple of things that I thought were very, very interesting. You mentioned some of the roles that they have to take on, including therapists, basically, conflict resolution and all of these sorts of things. And my question is, do teachers get training in these aspects of things, or do they just learn it on the job and figure it out as they go?
They have basic trainings in some of the areas, right? Educational philosophy, psychology, and so on, but that's just basic. Some of the aspects they have to learn on the job as well too. They have to be lawyers as well too,
right?
In trying to gauge what in situations and so. And the training is limited. Hence the reason you have the Student Support Services Division, which has in its aspect, you have guidance counselors, etc., etc.
Do we have enough?
We don't. In the present scenario, you have guidance counselors assigned to a cluster of schools, 4, 3, 5, etc., depending on the area. Each school, we are seeing, needs the cluster of Student Support Services Division, special ed and so on, assigned to the school full time, because you are getting more and more cases of aspects that they address. When you have them in clusters of 3, you can only come to a school maybe once a week. Depending on the severity of the case, they may be in that school for the entire week. What happens to the other schools where you need that support? And apart from the student support services, we have been calling for child psychologists as well too. That could be done in clusters, but you need those type of support as well too.
What is the response when you reach out to the student support services to get that support in terms of removing the clusters and focusing on individual schools?
Well, we have been advocating to the Ministry of Education that they need to improve in terms of resources, manpower for this area because of the importance to the support of the schools. Because, as you asked earlier, teachers are not generally trained in this area. They will try their best. However, if you're not trained, you can actually mess up more than you're trying to help.
Yeah, and my thing is that teachers are also humans, right? So
Yes.
if I mean, I'm gonna be real honest with you, Mr. Lum Kin. If it is you come and you lash me in my face, we're gonna have a different kind of conversation afterwards.
Yes.
I'm not saying I'm gonna get violent about it, but at the end of the day, I could understand, teachers also reaching their breaking point, reaching their limit. But is this a normal practice where teachers get physically involved with students to try and, let's say, part a fight, stop a fight, resolve a conflict? Is physical intervention necessary?
Sometimes it is, depending on what the altercation is. Most of our teachers that I know of, especially the male, they exercise a level of restraint because sometimes the students, they taunt the teachers as well too. Sometimes they will taunt a student and the teacher trying to protect that particular student. It escalates. And so a level of de-escalation is necessary, but we are not trained to de-escalate most times. We rely on emotions a lot of time, and emotion takes the best of us. We have always advised our members when there are fights, altercations at school, that you assess the situation before you actually intervene. Now, intervention may not be a physical intervention. It may be getting the necessary authorities to come. At secondary schools, we have safety officers. We have, in all schools, we have security officers. It may be, and in secondary, we have deans as well. So it may be that they can intervene, not you physically. But if you are seeing a student being pounded upon, instinct usually kicks in and you tend to jump in. Now, especially to our male members, if they are females fighting, we advise not to intervene because you can, at a later point, be accused of sexual touching in areas, when you're not thinking of that. So you're
trying to grab and pull.
Yeah. And, and now that we have cameras in schools, it may show, depending on the angle, it may show some sexual touching that you don't want to get into.
How do we go forward then as a nation? Because we need the balance of the teachers being safe and, of course, taking care of the children, but we also need the children to be respectful, responsible. What do you see as the next step going forward?
Well, in terms of short term, the schools need the necessary resources and the necessary backup. Student support services, safety officers, school security officers. But in the long term, we have to deal with this at the level, the symptoms and the causes as well too. We are only looking at symptoms and we are dealing with the causes. Again, we have to go back into the home, the community. We were just looking at some of the communities, and you're hardly seeing these sporting and cultural clubs again, which will help the children get involved in activities that are positive. In schools, there are supposed to be certain clubs as well too. A number of them do not have because of the support.
I was about to say, them clubs are expensive,
Yes.
And if the parents don't have the funding to be able to facilitate it, the club's going to fall apart in most cases because we can't expect. And I know we expect lots of sponsors to come on board and we would love that. And if the government would throw all the money behind it, but money is a finite resource, right? So at the end of the day, all schools can't have all the things based on the government or on corporate. So if the parents can't get involved either, then we have a different problem.
Yes.
How do we solve that problem?
Well, we have to find ways. There may be, genuine ways of getting around it. But there are other clubs as well too. So, for example, 4-H. There's in the secondary, there's cadets, etc. that teaches discipline as well too. There are a number of schools that have it and it works. But there are some that need the support and the help. to get them in.
Last time you were here, Mr. Lum Kin, we spoke about some schools that were not in a physically very good place. Have any of those been rectified, to your knowledge?
Very minor.
Okay.
Very minor. Work has been done in some of the schools, Mount Hope Secondary, but because of the age of the school, that infrastructure is over 50 years old, and you can imagine if you don't do preventative maintenance.
It's going to continue
But the
to
ministry has also admitted that schools have a lifespan, and if you don't treat with it, then you have problems like that. St. George's had some work being done. Arangwes North had some work done. However, the major works in blocks E and F, which houses the labs and the other technical vocational areas, have not been addressed. We have SBAs coming up, which is difficult for the teachers to address as well.
Yeah.
And then the offerings going forward, because if you have limited space, then you can't have limited offerings.
Yeah.
And
then a limited success rate, and then we end up back in the same cycle that we're in right now.
Right, and there are schools that really need, communities that really need these schools to help the children, give them an opportunity to get out. Yes, a fighting chance out of the cycle of poverty.
Yeah. Mr. Lum Kin, thank you so much for joining us this morning and for sharing some of your thoughts. I really, really appreciate you coming in, and I look forward to the next time we speak.
You're welcome. I look forward as well, too. Thank you very much.
Take care. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Same to you. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, the president of TTUTA, Mr. Martin Lum Kin, chatting about the causes and the consequences of school violence. We'll be right back after this break.